one of the most helpful things that I learned along the way was instead to avoid or mask.
Wonderful.
Yep. And
Folks, I want to introduce you today to Stephanie. She has a doctorate in higher education and leadership. She has a master in social work. She's a social worker and a therapist, and she's been in the field for 20 years. And, it's my pleasure today to invite her here and hear about her journey. And, like therapists are often hearing about everybody else's story, and I wanted to bring the story of some incredible, beautiful, lovely, awesome therapists to you guys. And so in that, and because of that, I wanted to invite Stephanie as a guest today. So thank you so much for joining us today, Stephanie. It's a real pleasure.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me. And I love this kind of perspective that you're taking to learn more about the therapist when we listen to so many stories ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just curious, like, if you want to just give us a little bit of a brief outline, and we can dig in a moment. But a little bit about your origin story, I guess, as a therapist, and where did it really start for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually kind of started on a different path. So when I entered into post-secondary, I had a passion for pursuing policing. So I started in college in police foundations. I just found it wasn't challenging enough for me. I was like wanting more from academia. And so I transferred into university at the time, and I was taking criminology. And I did obtain my degree in criminology, and I have a passion and love for that type of work. And I think that's also where I lean into my specialization of now working with first responders. But I guess kind of where did I go in between? So I know when you and I spoke, we talked a little bit about my family. And so I became pregnant as a younger mom, not a teenager, but a younger mom. So in my early 20s. And it was in and around the same time when I was doing my bachelor's degree. And I only took a semester off doing my degree and I went right back in. I took some courses online. I had help from friends and family to care for my baby as a single parent. And I successfully completed my BA in 5 years. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And it does feel pretty incredible. And I'm really grateful to say that my daughters, who's my oldest child now, her and I are best friends. And it's really cool just to see like her pursuing an excitement for post-secondary next year. So that's kind of where things started. And then from that degree, I landed a job as a counselor at a local community health center. And I realized quite quickly that I didn't feel that I necessarily had the right tools or applications or, therapeutic modalities to back me in the work that I was doing. And I just felt like it was really, best practice and responsible to go back to school to obtain a degree in counseling or psychology of some kind. So that's why I entered my Bachelor of Social Work. And so I completed that in 3 years, part-time, while I was working full-time at the Community Health Center. And still, I would think I was still a single parent when I started. And that's when I met my now partner. And so I did that work, and then I got my master's and my doctorate years later. So I kind of was collectively in school for about 10 years in post-secondary, which is a long time in theory, and it's expensive, but I'm just really grateful that I had the opportunity to explore, really where I wanted to land and really discover, I think, what meant the most to me in what I wanted to do for my work and my career. And I think what I've learned about myself through all of my education, through being a young parent and my experiences as a child, which wasn't necessarily the greatest in some cases, it really allows me to, just see people from a compassionate lens. Like I really have a lot of empathy for people in general, whether they're my clients or not. And that's also where I'm very community focused still, even owning a medium-sized group practice, private practice. We are still very community focused because it's important to me and where I came from that giving access to people is key to making changes in their life. Like if I didn't have certain access points along the way in terms of OSAP, housing supports, sports support for my daughter, I wouldn't have even been able to afford to sign her up for programs while I was a student and while I was working to pay for our basic needs. So there was a lot of things along the way that supported me to be able to complete these programs and get to where I am now. And so I still am a social work lens and community focus, even though we're in private practice psychotherapy.
Wow. So there was so much there that you shared. That was so good. So, I mean, and you really kind of try to shrink it. And I could tell there's so much in that, but it seems like maybe we'll start at the end. Like, I love that you still have that focus on, you said like the community, because that's where your roots were. That's where you started out. And this idea that, I was able to get to where I am today through the, like we're all standing on the shoulder of giants, so to speak, like, OSAP and other such things. And so now you want to give back to the community as well, even though you're kind of a private practice now. So what does that look like for you and for your practice?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the biggest piece is, as our private practice, one of the building blocks was ensuring that we remain community focused. So one of the ways that we do that is we offer free monthly workshops. So education type based workshops on different topics, and we release one per month that anyone can sign up for, regardless if they are a current paid client at Mindful Path. It doesn't matter. It's really just an access point to get some mental health support. And then we also have, we've rebranded as a teaching clinic, which is, we've just launched our new webpage, and we get a lot of practicum inquiries for new aspiring psychotherapists and social workers. And we do have, I would say, usually about 4 to 5 students per term that we take on under, our clinical supervision, myself or somebody else. And through that program, we're able to offer reduced fee counseling. So we have just a set rate instead of like a sliding scale, but a set rate of a reduced fee to access individual, relationship, or family therapy. And then we do partner with several community organizations to offer pro bono counseling services with our intern support. So places like Canadian Mental Health Association, their Safe Beds programs, the Youth Homeless Shelter. We offer counseling support there. And then we just have some new partnerships starting up in Ohsweken on Six Nations. So with like their Justice Department and things like that. So we always try to remain community focused and ensuring we're addressing equity issues and maybe access points to where people aren't able to get therapy because of a certain situation. So, for example, we do in-home counseling in Ohsweken because oftentimes they don't have access to transportation to come to our Brantford or our Simcoe offices, which are the ones that are the closest. So we have 2 therapists that go in Ohsweken and do in-home counseling support 2 days a week to reduce barriers.
Right. And that's so admirable. I love that. And, it seems like you have kept your roots, and there's a plethora of different things and programs that you are doing in order to stay connected to the community. I just want to kind of bring it back to you. I was feeling such a sense of admiration even the first time I heard this. And this is not my first time hearing your story, but even now when you're saying it again, like, you're a young woman and you are pregnant, you have a baby, and despite that, and often that's seen as like it's almost seen like as an obstacle, right? And it can be a big challenge, no doubt, but like you somehow took that on, and not only took it on, you where you are today, having gone through that. What were those early years like for you? Because you said your family wasn't the greatest, and was there family support there for you initially? Was there
there even with the, I'll say, challenging dynamics I've had with my family, they've always been supportive, even when I became a young mom. And mind you, I grew up in a European household. I grew up Catholic, so being pregnant out of wedlock was very frowned upon. So even despite those things, they were still and always have been very supportive and have an excellent relationship with my oldest daughter and my other children, which is great. And we just continued to try to navigate our relationship, which kind of was rocky. I was, kind of you could say like a challenging teenager. I don't think I was, but neither here nor there. And it's about perspective and just the different challenges about having my voice at a early age and always speaking up for myself. And I think that was kind of deemed as in ways of being disrespectful and being not listening and not following the direction. But really all it was about finding my own path and my own way. And I, like you said, as being a woman and being a young mom, mom and being a single mom, those were all kind of challenge points. And absolutely they were. I can't tell you how many times it's been frowned upon that I was a single mom for a long time, that I was even choosing to go to school, even though I had those access points and that was great. A lot of people were like, well, you're choosing to do that instead of parenting full time. You should be focusing on your child. And I was, outside of the academics and outside of my employment hours, and still trying to balance, somewhat of a social life for myself and a sense of self while being a parent. And I can't tell you how many people turned their back on me during those years. I can't tell you how many people judged me, how many people sent me rude, appalling, bullying messages about the choices that I made, and now have run into them, 10, 15 years later, and they're like, wow, you actually made something of yourself. And I'm like, oh,
Wow.
thanks for believing in me, And it just reminds
Wow.
me, unfortunately, how cruel people can be, how people can lead with judgment. And part of me receiving this reminds me how to remain self-led, how to remain compassionate and empathetic for other people, and to never pose judgment because it can be so harmful to someone's self-esteem.
That's honestly, it's so heartwarming to hear that story. Also kind of like heart-wrenching to hear how challenging that must have been for you at that age.
Yeah, it was.
But at the same time, it seems like you made the best out of it, right? Like you took that fertilizer, but what the biggest thing that stood out to me was the fact that you chose not to lead with that cruelty, but rather, the best revenge as this is to not be like your enemy, and you became more compassionate, and realize that you're not going to be one of those people.
And I'm often reminded of these things and like what we're talking about. Like, this sounds so silly, but as a family, we watched Sonic 3 last night. And if you watch the film, you see the other Sonic character. I don't know what the other guy was called. And he had this like chaos energy because he was harmed or harmed at an earlier age. And then you see them coming together at the end of the movie with Sonic and this other character. And he's like, why aren't you like that? Why don't you hurt other people? And he's like, because it doesn't make the world a better place. And it's so true. It's like compassion and love and community and connection make the world a better place. So even if I have moments or points where, part of me wants to, fight back in this way, I won't do that. And I've done a lot of my own trauma and therapeutic work, and just to continue to be led in community care, connection, love.
Yeah, and I think that as you were speaking, the idea of like the name of your clinic sort of came to my mind. I was like, that's exactly what this is. You're trying to walk the mindful path.
Mindful path. And it's so interesting how like that name didn't just come naturally to me either. And it still shocks me to this day, but it does teach me that the world has plans for you, or life has plans for you. And I believe a lot in energy. What we put out there comes back to us. So before we moved to our head office location, because that's also my primary residence, there was actually a path. So I had named Mindful Path Counseling before we bought this home. And before we added the offices here, and it had a mindful path, like a mindful path. So it's just so interesting, how this business came to be, how the name of the clinic came to be, just the growth that we've had, and just the really extremely positive feedback we have from our community members and community partners about the work that we do. And just, not that I need acknowledgement, but it is really wonderful to hear when people are like, you're setting the stage for just how therapy can be different, how wellness can be different, and ensuring that there's all these different access points, and you think outside the box. And we just really want to thank you. And it's really cool to hear that.
That's awesome, Stephanie. So where would you say in your path, did it become more clear to you that, okay, I'm on this mindful path of, becoming a therapist and holding space for people, or not just holding space for people, but allowing other people to be part of this journey that I'm on as well?
Yeah, so it definitely went back. Like I knew when I was doing my bachelor's degree in criminology, like I did have a passion for, corrections, for policing, like that field, but it didn't feel right. Something about, going to work and responding to people in that way, arresting people, pulling people over. I was like, I just don't feel like that's me. Like there was this conflict inside that felt like that's not how I was meant to relate to people.
Mhm.
And, that appreciate that profession. And I love working with people from that profession. But just for me, I don't think I would have done the best job for that field. And so that's how I kind of landed into counseling, psychotherapy, social work. And I thought, wow, like this is a really incredible way that we can be relational with people. We can help people. We can help improve people's lives. And really, the clients that we work with are kind of steering the ship and they're telling us what they need and we're supporting them along the way, but they're really doing the work. That felt more authentic to me. And also sharing my own knowledge about my own personal experiences and things that I've done and tried and changed along the way. And yeah, just different things about health and wellness that I've done. And I love sharing those things with people.
It seems that the policing thing was something you wanted to go, but then as you got exposed to this, you realized that your path lies this way.
Yes, it did. The other piece too was having a child at a younger age, being a single parent. It would not have been manageable to do shift work. Like that wasn't in my wheelhouse. It wouldn't have been possible at the time. So there was like a forced shift, but also like this desired shift with what I learned about like the differing careers.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess it's interesting how things are in life like that. It's never like, it's a multitude of variables that play a part. And for
Exactly.
you, that was true as well. I'm wondering, like, if you are willing to share a little bit more about you mentioned about your family dynamics, that they were very supportive, you said, but at the
Yeah.
same time there were challenges. And the key words you used were European and Catholic. I want to know more about like, well, how does that play into this?
Yeah, I mean, and this is again just like my lived experience, my perspective. I'm sure I know everyone always has their side of the story too, but I guess the dynamics of where I grew up and it was with my mom, my dad, and my brother. So, just kind of a small, tight knit family. We didn't have much extended family around. So it was really just the four of us. And there was things like, physical discipline and just you do what you're told, don't ask questions. And I just always knew that didn't align with me. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like a child or a young person shouldn't be able to ask questions or have a different opinion. It was always you're wrong. And so I kind of like always carried that with me. I had a lot of struggle in school too, socially. I was bullied a lot until I got to high school, which I know now people are like, what do you mean you were bullied? There's no way. And I really was. I am honestly a socially awkward person. But I never think we should treat people in that way. And those experiences, they really did leave lifelong wounds on my body for sure, like emotionally, just in terms of like, who do I trust and who do I develop relationships with on a personal level? Because there was, yeah, just a lot of bullying that happened in my younger years. So I think that also contributed to my desire in helping other people and making sure other people don't feel alone or are not isolated. Because in many ways I was, and it was really unfortunate. And then things shifted in high school. I think I opened up a lot more socially, had some really excellent friendships and relationships, was very involved in high school in terms of committees, did well academically. And yeah,
So
like,
you blossomed more once you got to high school, but you
yeah,
have some very negative memories of bullying and such from
yeah,
and
definitely.
is there a memory that you feel comfortable sharing that's a big one for you?
Yeah, I mean, like one that comes to mind is like I would dress like a boy, or people would tell me I dressed like a boy, and I mean, I just dressed comfortably. I don't know, but I also dressed
Right,
in a way
right,
that
right.
my parents could afford, which was secondhand and used items, and I got made fun of for that a lot. Yeah, just like like little things like that. I wasn't wearing, the Columbia jacket. I was wearing the Walmart jacket.
But I just want to highlight that for people that might think that that's it for a young person that could mean something a lot. That could be very very
Yeah, like I always flagged myself internally as like you're a loser. And I catch myself
Mm.
still sometimes being like, you're a loser. You haven't made it yet. You're not doing a good job. You're not doing enough. Like all that internal dialogue,
Mm.
even
Mm.
with well, almost 20 years of experience I have and 18 years doing clinical counseling. And that narrative still
Well, not to
plays.
mention a very successful clinic itself, lots of
Yeah. Yeah.
people, and
Yeah.
yeah. So, but
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting how the self-deprecating stuff can still pop up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that just goes to shows the humanity of the therapist too, right? Like we all are.
Yeah,
It's a,
and exactly. And that's why I'm so transparent. Yeah, like I'm very transparent, just with people. So like personally, but also professionally with my clients. I also use self in clinical therapy, when appropriate. It's more of that like indigenous or holistic lens, but I do feel it's more authentic for me. It's very relational. I think clients really appreciate it. And to let people know that like I don't necessarily have it all figured out. Like this has been my journey, and these are still things I internally struggle with. And these are helpful things along the way that we can do to help improve them. Some wounds don't necessarily ever go away, but we can soften them, we can quiet them, we can help to understand our nervous system better. And I mean, that's things that I've done along the way that have really helped me. And I love to educate people about how they can work to improve their own system.
and you mentioned nervous system, and the name of your practice is Mindful Path. So, was there a time where you were formally introduced to sort of mindfulness practices or meditation, or?
Yeah, for sure. So it was in my master's degree, and it was we had a course on DBT, CBT, and like mindfulness studies. And the mindfulness, of course, really resonated with me and really stuck out. And that was kind of the core component I focused on in that course. And ever since then, so that would have been, yeah, the year of 2015. So 2015, mindfulness has always kind of been embedded and ingrained in everything that I do and everything that we kind of are.
So that's something that really resonated with you, and you kept it, and you keep it's a gift that keeps giving, I guess. Is that
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And the beautiful thing about like mindfulness and breath work is we all have access to the breath. So I love that tool because we can always come back to it. We always have that resource. You don't need any money or special tool for it. Like you can help educate people on using breath and breath work to help regulate the nervous system, and it's completely free and we have access to it in our body.
Yeah, it's true. It's a level playing field when it comes to your breath and your sleep,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
For sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you, in our initial conversation, you had mentioned that you were also struggling with some chronic health issues in your early part of your life. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Stephanie?
Yeah, for sure. So after I had my daughter, my oldest child, so when I was 21, probably around 25, I just started and mind you, I did advise you, I was working full time, parenting still is an independent person, and in school and full time. And so doing all those things, my nervous system just started to break down. I started experiencing like body aches and pains, like extreme exhaustion. Couldn't even bend over sometimes. I couldn't like kneel on my knees. Like the joint pain was excruciating. And I just started to like investigate like what's going on in my body. And it was kind of the early stages of an autoimmune disease. And so I did advocate for myself to get certain tests done and markers done to understand what was happening in my body. And mind you, that can be hard to do. A lot of people wouldn't know to advocate for certain things or ask for certain things, or might not have resource to people who've been there before and known that. So this is where I kind of come in and I share all these things that I've learned. But I got all of that information, and I really did a deep dive in my second pregnancy. So with my middle child, she's 4 now, because I had the joint pain at that point was pretty excruciating. And I was like, there's got to be something here that we haven't found. Sure enough, I had autoimmune markers for lupus. So I have I have a positive ANA, and I have one lupus factor. You need two for a full diagnosis. Plus, I think, minimal experiences with the body, which I don't have anymore. Like I don't have my joint pain. I'm sleeping well. I'm able to work out. I don't have any mobility issues. Thank goodness. And I think and I didn't share this with you before, but I think a big kind of trigger in my own brain was actually removing my breast implants. So I took my breast implants out. Like I just knew intuitively that something was wrong. And that was a contributing factor to why my body was like attacking itself. Sure enough, I take my implants out and so this is now within a 4-year period from now till 4 years ago, symptom free, no joint pain, no muscle weakness. Wow. Yeah. So, and I think part of that is the education that I know, my just deep dive into health and wellness, all of the different people I've connected with over the years. And then just intuitively this sense that that was the right thing to do. They kind of said, we don't know if this is going to prevent anything, stop anything, your progression. But I've had my levels tested twice since and completely the same, at least, not greater towards disease progression.
There's a lesson in there for like trusting your intuition, because the doctors were saying that the implants have probably nothing to do with it. But
No, that's not a thing. Breast plan illness isn't a thing. It's a lot talked about more in the US than it is in Canada. It's not like a confirmed diagnosis or chronic illness here. And I'm like, no, like I really think this is it. And I literally remember waking up from surgery. It's so ridiculous. Woke up from surgery and was like, I want to go for all you can eat sushi. And we did. It was great. I had so much energy. I don't think I slept for 2 days.
Wow. So because you had been in this like almost like it was a spell on you that was broken or something.
Kind of. It felt like that for sure. Yeah.
Right. And so that piece happened right around the time your first pregnancy.
So that was around the time of my second pregnancy. So that was about 4 years ago. Yeah. Okay. So I think it started like all those kind of symptoms of chronic illness started around 25 and continued on till I was 34. So 9 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So do you think that has played a part in your therapeutic journey?
Yeah, absolutely. It has reminded me how much the body plays a role in how we mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically feel. So again, using that holistic framework, getting to know, befriending our nervous system, getting to know signs. So when you have that stomach pain, what does that mean? Like, what does that discomfort mean? What does it mean when we have a migraine? And depending what lens we use, like an IFS, so a migraine might be a part trying to tell us that we shouldn't be doing that or we shouldn't be engaging with those people. And a migraine's coming up as a sign to our nervous system to say no or to slow down or to do something different. And so I look at chronic pain completely different now than I did before, partly with all of the therapeutic modality trainings I've had, but also with my own mental, physical, emotional health experience.
Yeah. So in other words, when people, and this is something that as therapists, we see a lot, like chronic pain, right? And so you can relate to that. And so usually, I guess that's helped you kind of also pursue your education in a certain way too, where, for instance, just you mentioning now about the migraine is so interesting to me, how that could be an emotional signal itself.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I definitely have. And it's so terrible to say, but when I go to like an in-person training or an in-person academic class, I immediately feel exhausted, but I'm not exhausted. And so now when I know about health, wellness, and all the modalities and how our parts play a role, I'm exhausted because my body and my mind isn't really there. Like I don't want to be sitting there in person. I actually learn better remotely. I'm also a neurodivergent person. I know that about myself. I'm usually self-taught, self-led. So I did my doctorate completely online. And for me, I was thriving. While other students were struggling to meet deadlines and finish their papers, I was getting them done a week early. But if you asked me to go to school and then do papers on top of that and like insert a schedule in my week in that way, I completely shut down. I'm drained. I'm exhausted. Sitting in class, I'm wanting to fall asleep.
Yeah, there's a great lesson in that, we gotta not compare ourselves incessantly to other people. We're unique creatures and we all learn differently. And, we can't always be comparing ourselves to some externalized benchmark. And just because I can't sit in class for long doesn't mean I'm stupid, right? And maybe there's a different way that works better for me, right? And so for you, you play to your strength by doing your doctorate remotely.
Yeah, Yeah, I loved it. It was amazing. I learned so much. Like, I can genuinely say I read every article. Like, I love reading, I love academia, but putting me in person in the class, I struggle. But again, it's because that's how my nervous system works. So I also love in therapy and in my supervision work that I do to really remind therapists and remind clients that our bodies work differently, our minds work differently, and to get to know your own system in a way that supports you, in a way that helps you thrive, because the way that your nervous system works is not the same that mine works.
Right, right. I'm not even sure if mine works at all. But just kidding. I'm still breathing, so it should be working. But
Yeah.
it seems like looking back, what were the hardest seasons for you? Like, sort of, I guess from the perspective of this journey, where did you?
Yeah. Hardest seasons. I mean, definitely like right when I had Haley, my oldest. So when I was 21, being a new mom, I took that kind of September to December off and then went right back into school in January.
Wow.
Trying to like figure out how to work, have a social life, how to parent, how to be a good student, how to, still see my family and dating, what is all that? It was just a really challenging time. I would say 21 to 24, just trying to figure out all of those different nuances and, what are we doing with our life? What life am I creating for you? And now I'm responsible, to do that for her. And I really took that seriously. Like I don't want to just get a degree and get a career. Like I want something that will be meaningful for me, but also sustainable for us.
So Haley, or your firstborn coming into the picture, really sort of also in a way pushed you in the right direction, you're saying?
Oh, absolutely. Like before I was pregnant with her, I actually wasn't enrolled in post-secondary studies at all. I was working
Oh.
as a delivery driver, delivering pizza.
So
Yeah,
it
and
made
then
you serious about like.
it did. Yeah. I think I was kind of like, oh, I did a year of police foundations and, that didn't work out. Now what do I want to do? And I was like, oh, I'll just figure it out eventually. But then,
Right.
life happens when you're busy not making plans. And sure enough, found out I was pregnant and kind of forced into making a decision. And you know what? It's all really worked out. It's really cool.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Now I want to get pregnant. Um, I wish I had a kid early because it seems like it kind of puts you on a good track, So
It did. Yeah.
what were you always? Did you always have these sort of leadership skills, or did you think you honed them over the years, or?
No, definitely not. I did not have leadership skills. I got my doctorate in education and leadership a couple of years ago. That really helped me gain the leadership skills that I needed to lead and to lead people and to build the brand and practice in the way that I have. I think before that, if I hadn't have done that degree, because it's in post-secondary education and people are like, why would you get a degree in post-secondary education? At one point I was working in post-secondary studies. And then we had the pandemic, and then that's when the business kind of grew to what it is now. But I just found that I was really able to implement the leadership skills that I learned from that degree. And looking back, I would not be the leader that I am today without that level of education, because it just taught me a lot about reflecting on my leadership style. How do I interact with people? And a lot about owning a group practice or owning a medium or a larger size business and leading a lot of people or managing a lot of people is you have to learn people skills and how to work with people. So I always tried to lead with flexibility and fairness and understanding. Because I think a lot of the times people are like so scared to like tell me something and I'm like, oh, what is it? And they're like, hey, can I have next week, next Monday off? I'm like, great, have the best day of your life. Yes. Where you work in a system and they say no, submit a vacation request, can't be off that day because so-and-so's already off. And I don't know, that just doesn't work for me. I think we can lead with flexibility and understanding. And that's where that really tight knit group that we have here, that I'm really proud to say we have like excellent team dynamics.
And you think a lot of it comes from like having a leadership style that's flexible and compassionate and take some of those same values that you have as a therapist and applies them to your team.
Yeah, I think so. And it also helps me be very community led and just in, the relationships that we're building, the collaboration opportunities, and just making sure that who we're connecting with is also in line with our mission, vision, and values. And that it will be supportive of to the community as a whole, those partnerships that we're creating. And yeah, I just always want to make sure that we're leading with the best foot forward.
Yeah, that's awesome. And by the way, like from the outside looking in, like it seems like you almost have 4 or 5 clinics you're running. You got all this different stuff going on. Like nothing. Yeah. One wonders, do you get any sleep?
Oh my gosh, everyone asks me, do you ever sleep? I honestly do. I sleep 7 to 8 hours solid every single night. I really love sleeping. Even love a good nap. I think partly it's because my neurodivergent brain really allows me to get things done at a quicker speed than the average person, like in any a note taking task like that. My schedule is very organized, personally and professionally, and just the tools that I found that really work for me.
Sorry, suddenly you got cut off there. So you're saying that the tools that have really helped you in managing your life, you were kind of shedding some light on that.
Yeah, so just making sure I'm using my calendar. I'm a big believer in writing things down. So we make a weekly calendar, I have my monthly calendar, I have my professional calendar, just making sure everything's up to date, everybody's on the same page, everybody knows where they need to be. And it's really worked well. And I think it helps me optimize the time that I have available, when the kids are at daycare and school and, working during the day.
Okay, so it's a lot of it comes down to self-organization and self-management.
Yep, time management, organization, huge. Finding like the different, if there's apps that people like to use or just your Google Calendar, like just finding and utilizing the tools that you have.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that some of these tools, like, you're sharing with your staff as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Any like tips or tricks that I have learned, I'm quite open in sharing with people if they ask. I think it's really great if we can optimize our life and, make us working less. We're being at our desk less. So yeah, I always love sharing those tips.
Cool. So when did you decide to make this transition step from being a therapist to being in and I guess having a clinic with others?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it kind of happened organically. I really didn't have any intention or to open a group practice. I had started as a solo practitioner because I was an independent contractor, very part-time casually at another office. And then I realized it would be really nice to do my own thing. So I just kind of went off and did my own thing. And then during the pandemic, that's when, things really shifted in the world and people's mental health, quite significantly declined. And there was a lot more outreach for mental health support. So then once I had a wait list, I realized I should probably consider bringing on another practitioner. So again, had no clue what I was doing, brought on a practitioner. Probably did everything wrong in the first couple times and then realized things along the way and implemented better systems. But yeah, it was kind of like that. And so one person would know somebody, and so-and-so's looking for a job. Could they work for, here too? And I'm like, oh yeah, share their resume. Before you know it, we have 34 providers in 2026 and 5 locations. It really happened organically. There was zero plan for this to happen.
And you were mentioning that for you, even coming into therapy, it was kind of similar there. Like you were never really going to be a therapist, you were going to be a criminology. And so it's interesting how life sometimes takes these twists and turns, and you ended up with a group practice, and now you're doing really well, and you're sort of supporting a lot of people and very well versed in the community. And so where do you see this going forward for you, Steph?
Oh, goodness. I feel like we're in a year of stabilization. So I always kind of teach people in business coaching and leadership that your clinic, if you're moving from solo to group or you want to expand your group, you always want to have a year of stabilization and then a year of growth. So last year was a lot about a year of growth. So 2026 is a year of stabilization for us. And then 2027, the plan would be we start to grow again if we want to. So this year is really all about just finalizing systems, is making sure everything that we have in place, is rock solid, and just focusing on building up the team that we currently have, because there's some new practitioners, so we want to help build their caseloads. And one of the things that I'm most really passionate about as a leader is ensuring that we can provide stabilization for people, especially if they're coming on and they're joining a clinic. We're not just hiring people. We're making sure that their caseloads are full to, whatever they desire, to make sure they have a stable income. I think that's really important. I don't want to just hire people to hire people. Yes, we are meeting needs, but we also have to make sure as group practice owners that we're meeting therapist needs too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you're looking at both sides of the picture.
Yeah.
So just switching gears quickly to if for people watching this, what are the top 10 things you think, or not top 10, but whatever top things you think, that people would be really helpful for them to work on for their mental health and greatly benefit from, that probably a lot of us are not doing?
Yeah, I think one of the most helpful things that I learned along the way was instead to avoid or mask or use a substance of some kind, or to avoid emotions. I actually befriended them, whatever emotion that was along the way: joy, sadness, happiness, anger, frustration. I would invite it in and I would really feel it. I would get therapy and support along the way, and talk to my friends as needed. But I really have always tried to work and befriend my emotions versus avoiding them. I think when we try to avoid them, we try to mask, we say that's not happening, or I'm going to ignore that, I'm going to block this and put it over here. It only lasts for so long. And our body remembers, our body keeps the score, as Bessel will say. And so I think that's been very helpful for me. And also with my health and wellness that we talked about, I think my body was able to recover, one, because the implants were removed, but two, because instead of avoiding emotions and ignoring what the signals my nervous system was saying, I actually listened to my body and I tuned into what it needed and made the changes.
So I think, if I'm hearing it correctly, you're saying that a lot of us would benefit from tuning into our own inner dialogue, to listening to ourselves deeply. And, it's easier to run away using substances or other things, but in the long run, it would benefit us to really, be in tune with what our bodies are really trying to communicate and signals they're trying to give us, and then taking them seriously.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can avoid our emotions or try to turn away from them. One of my things used to be shopping. I had a really terrible financial situation, years and years ago, because I would just spend money that I didn't have. And, in the moment, you feel great when you grab something. But when you look at the bill after, and then you realize, oh, that didn't actually make me feel any better. If instead of doing that, I did this. It's harder work to do the other thing, to tune into how we're feeling, address it, maybe make relationship changes, friendship changes, career changes sometimes. But in doing that, we actually are moving forward. We're not masking it. We're living authentically and we're owning what's happening in our system.
That's beautiful. And, so aside from individual work, your clinical and yourself and your staff are also working hard with couples and helping people, improve their relationships.
Yeah.
What are some pieces of advice you have for people in relationships who are going through some challenging times, or just people in relationships that would like to have a deeper bond, or enjoy their relationships more?
Yeah, for sure. We get a lot of relationship referrals, and we notice that a lot of people, I think we're noticing this in therapy. I've also had a lot of personal conversations with people. I hear a lot how people are going through a lot of divorces, a lot of separations, what is going on right now. And I mean, the landscape in 2026 has really changed, just how economics are, housing costs are so high, relationships are having a lot of financial struggles. And then on top of that, we have our own personal health, we have children, maybe we're considering academics, career. There's so many layers to what's really included in a relationship. And sometimes I just encourage people to, if you can, really peel it back. What are the things that you have to do or have to engage in? I often hear from couples, well, we have to take our daughter to gymnastics on the weekend. I'm like, okay, but it's really sounding like you need to reset and take a day or a weekend to yourselves. And that would, give you a bit more energy. It might also make you feel a little bit better, a little bit more connected. And a lot of times people feel that there's this, pressure to do all of these things
Mm,
in life, and we don't have
mm,
to. We're signing up for
mm,
a lot of these things, and we can say no. We could take a weekend off. No one would know why we're not there. And so I
yeah,
think really kind of peeling it back, making sure, people are resting, making sure relationships are connecting. Like, are you having a genuine, authentic conversation with your partner, or with your family? Or are you just rushing through life, going to work, getting frustrated, making dinner, and going to bed? Like, of course, your
mm,
relationship is going to struggle. So I think a lot of the time it's really like peeling back all of the layers to say what's actually going on and where can we make some changes? What are you in
yeah.
control of?
I think that's beautiful because you are trying to also in a way question certain assumptions because you're just taking them as for granted. Like we have to do these things when
You don't have to do anything.
yeah, exactly. So these are expectations again that you're putting on the relationship, and so that creates the unnecessary pressure. So I
Mhm.
guess what you're suggesting is like really have a deep, honest look at your life and ask yourself, where can I make some time for myself and for my
Yeah,
partner? Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Ah,
I think that's like
okay.
a starting point. And sometimes people can't do that independently, just where the relationship dynamic is at. And that's where couples and relationships therapy comes in, where people can come in and we can work with them and kind of mediate and have those conversations in a safe place to ensure everyone's being heard.
So in other words, therapy can be super helpful for couples when they are at a point where, they might not be able to do these things on their own or could just benefit
Hmm.
from a professional in the room.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. And we love too when we hear from relationships that they're like, we just want to get started early. Everything's great. I'm like, love this, you know,
mm,
because then there's always a point in a relationship where talking about it can be helpful, or having a trauma focused lens can be helpful. Because I think what a lot of people forget is who we were as children, as youth, where we come from, all of those different imprints we have on ourselves, we lean into in the relationship. Like, we bring all of that with us. So our attachment style, our attachment wounds. And so it's really helpful to understand from our partners, what they need. What is your love language? What are your attachment wounds? How can I be loving and supportive to you? What do you need? And just learning about some of those things. We know sometimes what we need, but also sometimes we don't know what we need, depending on the level of self-reflective work that person's done.
right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes a lot of sense. What is one good emotional regulation skill that you think our teens need right now?
An emotion regulation skill that teens specifically need.
Yeah, or something that you would love to teach teens if you could.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've taught my own children. My older one especially, but like pausing. So wait 60 minutes minimum to respond to a message that feels activating for you. Maybe you're
Mm,
angry or like frustrated, like you want to get into a fight with somebody. If you wait, I sometimes say 60 minutes, sometimes one day. Sometimes people need the 24-hour rule, and that's valid.
mm,
Wait 24 hours, wait an hour, depending what it is, and then respond, because that emotional activation that you had in your system when you initially read or received that information, you've now had time to take a step back, cool down, maybe eat something, refocus, talk about it with somebody else, and then you can respond from a different lens. And oftentimes that helps to reduce fighting, arguing. And we know how younger people are, and a lot of their issues do rely on communication issues and
yeah,
communication
yeah.
struggles.
And,
Yeah, so
and I can
24-hour rule.
24 hours, 60 minutes to
Yeah,
24 hours. Yeah. And I guess
yeah.
it connects back to your commitment to or the importance of the nervous system and how, it gives it some time to regulate itself. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't show up as our best selves when we're dysregulated. We
Yeah.
often show up in a part that's wounded, and we are not self-led. So the
Mm,
more we can connect with our system and be aware of that, then the more that we know how to respond. Do we need 60 minutes? Do we need 24 hours? Maybe some conversations need a week. I don't know. It just depends on what it
yeah,
is.
for
And just
sure.
getting to know what we need is so important, because then we respond completely differently. We're understood
Mm,
a lot more.
right, right. And because the way you ask for, if you respond also then plays a part in how they respond. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Hmm.
sure. Okay, so before we go, I'm just curious, what keeps you excited about learning all this? After all these years, what keeps that drive and Stephanie going for learning new stuff?
Yeah, I've always had a passion for like learning and expanding my knowledge, expanding my like my social and my cultural lens and like that compass. And I do a lot of that too when I travel. Like you just see things from a completely different perspective in other countries.
Mm,
And I think just being able to continue to learn, to travel, to expand my own awareness, just allows me to continue to shape how I connect with people, and it just excites me that there's more than what I know. Like there's still more out
mm,
there. There's so much more, and that just makes me excited. Like Monday is my favorite day of the week. I think it's like a new opportunity to do things like really great for that week. Everyone's like Monday's the worst day. No, Monday's like the greatest day of the week because it's now 7 more
mm.
days we can fulfill all of these desires that we have, all this excitement, all of this learning.
Yeah, cool. I love that. Monday's
Yeah.
the best day of the week. That's the title of this video, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No one
So
will
so
listen.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Monday. It's funny. It's Mondays. I think it's technically supposed to be Moon Day, right? And
Moon day. Oh,
yeah,
and
Sunday is
I
supposed
have
to
a
be the.
moon tattoo now. That's
Oh,
funny.
cool. So that's what I mean.
There
Like,
you
so
go.
for Moon is all often associated with a lot of like change and like things like that. So yeah, cool.
Cool. Very cool. I didn't know
So
that.
yeah, so for you, like right now, when you said you keep want to learn and just keep you stay excited about new things. So what's the latest
Yeah.
thing that you've been learning about?
Yeah, so the most recent training that I've completed was my level two or my track two towards certification for sex therapy for individuals and relationships. So I
Mm,
just completed that last week. So now my next step is, working with clients, focusing on sex therapy. So I think I'll lean a lot into, trauma focused work and sexual dysfunction. And then I have to work towards my group supervision and individual. That'll kind of be my next endeavor.
cool. Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited to track more of your next endeavor stuff, and really
Yeah.
appreciate your time today. I feel like there was so much more depth that we can
I
fall
know.
into,
I feel
but
like we could just have a whole afternoon chat about it for sure.
yeah, but maybe we'll pause here. So thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.